Domains of Learning. Welcome to Session 5B for 3678. Remember when we were reading Blaise and Hayes in our first session, we learned that learning can promote a change of behavior. And Blaise and Hayes, they discussed several theories as to how and why people learn. So in this session, we're going to review a few of the theories that were introduced to you earlier in nursing, and we're also going to introduce you to a few more. As you know, there's a learning process called behaviorism, and it was introduced by Skinner, and his theory is called the operant conditioning theory. There's a classical condition, he states, that is done when there's an association with a new stimulus. So if something brand new is introduced to you, you will then be able to respond. And then there's operant conditioning, where the frequency, if this stimulus is done frequently, it can be increased or decreased, but it will therefore change your way of behavior because you will respond to something that's pleasant. You will respond the same way over and over again if you get pleasant feedback, and then you will also respond in a certain way if it's not so pleasant, therefore causing reinforcement. And then if it's not really very pleasant, extinction is usually the process that takes place. In other words, it will be unlearned. So studies of conditioning produce laws of learning that were thought to be universal. So in other words, the way we behave means that we have an understanding of our environment, because environment plays a major role on one's behavior and how someone controls it. Environment is an essential factor that determines our actions. An act is a response that is traced to the effects of a stimulus. So therefore our bodies function as a coding system. When you think of social learning theories, we think about Albert Bandura, who has done quite a bit of research in this particular area. And he states that the learning process involves three highly interdependent factors. There's the characteristic of a person, that's a factor, therefore one's behavior, as well as one's environment. So he sort of agrees with Skinner to some degree. These three factors, behavior, one's character, and their environment, have a tendency to determine how one will behave. So reciprocal determinism is what came out of that. They believe that the behavior affects or creates the environment. In addition to that, as one will be able to observe, or called operational learning, observational learning, is where we acquire new skills and alteration of old ones, as well as there's a powerful socialization force. As when you first begin nursing, when we introduced certain skills to you, and we showed them, we not only did discuss them, but we also showed you how those skills were to be performed. And then you begin to acquire them. If you came in with some old habits, we tried to make sure that they were, perfected, so that they would have a good outcome, and then you begin to learn that way. So we model that for you, so that you would be able to imitate that modeling and be able to pass it on. So learning is a complex cognitive activity. There's the learning, the development of understanding and appreciation that helps the individual functions in a larger context. And learning is largely a mental, intellectual, or thinking process. So in order for this process to take place, your brain becomes like a mind, like a computer. You have learning's perceptions are influenced by personal characteristics and experiences. Your social, emotional, and physical context will affect how that learning takes place. In addition to that, you have to be ready. So their developmental readiness and individual readiness are key factors in learning. And one person that comes to mind when we talk about these major cognitive theories is Piaget. Remember him when you learned about this? He states that there's orderly sequential process requiring stimuli, and there are 4 phases. There's your sensory motor that takes place when you're first born at about 2 years, and then the pre-operational stage between 2 and 7, your concrete operations between 7 and 11, and then your formal operations that are really become cemented between 11 and 15 years of age. So each phase has 3 primary abilities: to assimilate, to accommodate, and then to adapt.